Hello, and welcome to another episode of Myths and Stories, a Destiny 2 lore podcast. Today, we are continuing our story of the Renegade and his, I guess, I don't want to call him his nemesis, but I'll call him that. The story of Shin Malphur, Dredgen Yor, and all of that entails. The story of two gunslingers, both very crafted in their arts, and really more following. I can't say more following the guns, but the guns really do play a big part in this story. Those two guns being Thorn, the Corrupted Rose, and the last word, the gun that won the West is what I kind of think of it as. Because it does have that very cowboy vibe to it. I think it's even a Tex
Mechanica, based on how it's spelled. Yeah.
Okay. So the same brand of same brand of firepower as. Oh, now I'm sad because I thought of Amanda Holiday. Well, this episode's already washed, Smith. Pack it up, go home. No. Yeah. So we're doing. Sorry, I got squirrel brain there for a second. We're doing the Dredgen stuff. We're doing Dredgen Yor. Dredgen Yor's dead at this point in time in the story. That's where we left off at our last episode. Shin Malphur had been he'd grown up as a ghostless guardian from age 1. Because he'd been
pretty much, yeah.
It's kind of an odd thing to think of. It's an odd state for a guardian to be in. But I guess had never even known he had the light. Like I don't think that he did, and maybe that's why Jason took to him, because Jason Ward is, and we talked about him last episode. Jaren Ward. Why do I keep saying Jason? I was explaining this to somebody else the other day too, and I was like, "It's Jason Ward," and they're like, "No, you're wrong," and I'm like, "I might be, but that's not the point." Jaren Ward, maybe because I'm thinking of like Jason Bourne, because that's how badass he is. Jaren Ward and his gun, the last word, helped kind of free the people of. Now I'm going to screw the name up of the town, Myth. I'm killing it this episode. I am absolutely murdering this episode, Myth. Palinor. Palinor?
Palamon.
Palamon. Damn it, Myth. I'm fired. I know I'm fired. Palamon. See, these are too many names, Myth. I can't keep up with all this shit. So Jaren Ward helped free the town of Palamon, by getting rid of the dictator that lived there, or that was ruling over the place. And then they went out on a hunt, and while they were out on this hunt, the Dredgen Yor came and decimated the town, killed everyone, because I'm now fully convinced he's batshit insane. But you spend enough time on the moon, and you get Eris Morn.
I mean,
anyone's bound to go batshit crazy, and Eris Morn's kind of there, but like we all respect her for being batshit crazy, and we go to her for answers for batshit crazy stuff that the Hive do, and she has answers, and you're like, not exactly the answer I was looking for, but okay, I guess I'll have to use it.
Yep.
But yeah, so there's a big showdown between the two that went on this long hunt of Jaren and Shin. Trying to track down and hunt down Dredgen Yor. At one point in time, there's a gunfight between Jaren and the Dredgen. Dredgen kills him. The light, Jaren's ghost can't res him. He says the light is draining from him. I can't do anything. What the hell did you do? And Dredgen just kind of like says, take his gun back to his progeny, his tutor there, and I'll finish the job when I need to. Sure enough, they come down to a showdown between Shin Malphur and Dredgen, and Shin summons the first instance of the golden gun and pops him right in the head with it. And down goes Dredgen Yor. And so we're like, yay, story's over, that's it. Wrong. Wrong. There's a whole mess of Dredgens. There's a whole, I mean, shit, I'm a Dredgen. I've done that title. I'm pretty sure Myth is a Dredgen. Myth's a Reckoner. He's an old school Dredgen.
Yeah, I hated myself is what I did.
I think most Dredgens do hate themselves, like internally. Like they're like the ultimate edgelords. So yeah, that's where we're picking up here is the Shin Malphur, the man with the golden gun, killing Dredge and Yor is not even the close to the end of the story. This is kind of truly
Mm-mm.
where the story begins. Everything before this was like
Yep.
the prequels, and this is where the actual story begins. So myth, let's jump into it.
Yes. So, yeah, I mean, you're correct. Like the story of Jaren Ward and Shin and Dredge and Yor and their conflict is done. However, that story causes so much more to happen down the line. And so that's kind of what we're focusing on now. Is the fact that this this myth has begun in the Destiny universe with this showdown. And it's we can even see that taking a little bit from the Rose and Bone ship, the lore card on that. It says Dredge and Yor, Shin Malphur, the showdown at Dwindler's Ridge. Every gunslinger knows the legend, and if they say they don't, they're lying.
Truly
Everybody
legendary.
knows this story. Yeah. They have entered this grand mythos and legend within the Destiny universe that's told about these two figures. And like any any good story, people start to disassociate it from the actual events and the actual people, and they start to romanticize it a little bit. They start to see those characters as characters and not an historical event.
Yeah.
And that very much happened with both of Dredge and Yor and Shin Malphur. Shin Malphur kind of becoming this symbol of justice, of like the boogeyman for the boogeymen kind of
Oh
thing.
yeah. Like who hunts? What does the boogeyman check his bed for? Well, apparently he
Right.
checks it for Shin. Shin Malphur.
Exactly. And on the other end of things, Dredge and Yor became this very enticing figure of like, here was a guardian that found power, like dark power that they weren't able to handle it, but I'm sure I could handle it. That was kind of
Why does
the
every guardian think
takeaway.
that?
I know,
Like
but
that's just crazy talk, myth.
so it
Well,
was
if he couldn't handle it, I can handle it. No.
right. But that was what it turned into, is like, oh, he had this power that no one had seen before, and everyone feared him, and like I feel like I'm a real tough guardian, so I wonder if I could find that. I wonder if I could figure out what you're used and use it myself, because clearly I'm not corruptible. And it's that thought process and that kind of romanticizing of this honestly tragic tale that started getting people interested in how could they get some of that power? How could they better understand Dredge and Yor to figure out how he became what he did?
I've said it once, and I know I'm not the first person to say it. I know it comes from somewhere famous. I think it's like a World War II quote. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. It's bad. It's bad, bro.
And bad stuff. And so what comes of this search is a group. Starts off as just a couple people, but is eventually a small group that are trying to find information on Yor, real information on Yor, not just legend. They want to know, who was he? What did he do? What turned him into this? And to be fair, not even Shin knows anything about Yor's past. He just knows the man he met.
Sure. And I doubt he revealed a whole lot, because I mean he talked in riddles and
Oh yeah.
nothings, and like to Shin, this was just a revenge. This was just like
Yep.
I need to get revenge for that entire town, and that was it. Like that was kind of the end. To me, that was like the end of what Shin kind of. I don't want to say that's not what the end of that's not the end of what Shin contributed to this, but that was kind of Shin's ultimate goal. Like he didn't care who this
Yeah.
guy was. He just said, "I need justice, and this is how I need justice through revenge, and that's how I'm going to accomplish it."
Yeah. So we are going to start our readings with a book called The Book of Unmaking, which is also referred to as the seventh Book of Sorrow.
Oh shit! I didn't know
And
that it was
this
like that.
and this is a book of sorrow that was not written by the Hive. This book was written by Dredge and Yor.
Of course, he had a freaking private lore book that he wrote.
Of course.
This guy is so full of. I think that's what still blows my mind about Dredge and Yor. He is so full of himself.
Oh,
Like
he
he's
is.
so convinced. Like I know he's batshit crazy. I think I think the moon did that to him. But yeah, he's like batshit crazy and full of himself. The fact that he can just completely reject his ghost is like, then you're nothing to me. Get out of my life. And the ghost is like, I can fix you. I can save you. I'm not fixable. Get out of my life. Like, nah, man, he really is like,
Yeah.
ugh, ugh.
He's the dark, broody, like I'm better than everyone. I mean, he even says in some of his confrontations with people, like, I am the
Yeah,
nightmare.
literally. Yeah.
I mean, he's just a bad Batman at this point. But so, needless to say, he wrote the seventh book of sorrow during his travels prior to meeting Shin. And there's a group that has found it and is starting to translate it, because he didn't write it in any known human language. He wrote it in hive symbols.
Holy shit.
And so the people that we're following here are starts off as two members, they by the names of Tebin Gray and Zyra Orsa, who are kind of on this hunt for information. And so as we read through this book, we're gonna get the chapter of the Book of Sorrow that Yor wrote, and then notes scribbled at the bottom from Tebin Gray that kind of discuss either the translation or kind of the events going on as they're trying to uncover these things, and we can kind of see a story unfold there. As far as timeline goes, this is happening just prior to Andal Brask's death and Cade Six succeeding him as the Hunter Vanguard. So this is just before those events that Tebin and Zyre are investigating this stuff, or start investigating this stuff. So with that in mind, chapter 1 of the Book of Unmaking, titled Cages, goes like this. Flesh and mind are but cages. Become unbound or remain ever unworthy. This flesh, your flesh, is weak and old, handed down by priors unworthy of evolution. Had those before been more than common, your flesh would not be this flesh, but other and new. But new is never given. New is claimed. To claim evolution, one must first be unmade, free of cages such as flesh and mind. Evolution is claimed only through our unmaking. The first understanding from the seventh Book of Sorrow. And Tebin Gray's notes accompanying this say, "These pages and the understandings gleaned are our best efforts at a translation of incomplete discovery. The exact intent of the hive's ceremony, or ceremonies, in regard to their varied ideals regarding evolution is beyond our current knowledge. Nonetheless, we continue to piece together truths from dead words and arcane ritual. The purpose of our efforts, however sinister they may appear, is to grasp the unknown, so it may be challenged should the time come when we are faced with its ire." And that's the end of chapter 1.
Do you think that this translator fought other people on whether or not it was called hamburger or Tesla or ice cream or hot dogs on a grill? I had to add a little bit of comedy in there. I'm done.
Yeah.
It's my dad joke out of the way.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, as soon as you said this guy's trying to transcribe this and translate it, I'm like, I guarantee you he was having a fight with somebody else going, it's fucking hot dog. It's not. How is that an eyeball? That doesn't even look like an eyeball. That's a hamburger. Like, what is wrong with you? Yeah, that's exactly how that went.
Yeah.
Okay, now that that's out of the way. So, Book of Unmaking. It is describing exactly the title is very much almost all encompassing description of what's happening here.
Yeah.
Dredgen is describing that idea of like the person that stands before you, the being that is there, is nothing. Like that needs to be stripped away and created anew. The flesh isn't the flesh needs to be remade, or the flesh and the bone doesn't really matter. Like it's very much about that. Like what would you call that myth? Is that like a metaphysical state of being?
Yeah. And what I think is being described here is Yor is probably talking about the process he went through to become who he is by the time Shin Malphur meets him on Dwindler's Ridge. And we know that, Yor quote unquote became a different man. But it sounds like maybe he went through not just a mental, because he does say the flesh and the mind.
Sure.
He may not have just gone through a mental break and therefore mental changes. He may have changed physically as the corruption spread.
I think so. I think he became more hive-like throughout his remaining time after he gave up his ghost. Like to be that, and I can't say disconnected from, because I was there any instance of Dredgen using the light without his ghosts?
Not that was recorded as far as I know.
Okay, because that's kind of like my thought pattern here is Dredgen without the light is so much closer to Hive because of the grafting onto his gun, that Hive corruption is just. I mean that's I truly think that the Hive that we see today were not anything what Krill looked like, and all we're seeing is that billion years of corruption taking over. So if Dredgen had managed to live for a billion years, he probably would just look like a wizard or a knight or something.
Yeah, maybe so.
That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking there really truly is that physical change there.
I would not be surprised if there is some level of a physical, manifestation of this corruption. The other thing I want to point out here, though, because of where this sits in the timeline, they have not attacked the moon yet. The first time around.
Oh, sure. Pre
Crota. The first time Crota showed up.
I was going to say like way before Eris's party, way before everything.
Yeah. And we see here, because they don't know, the exact intent of the Hive ceremony in regard to their varied ideals regarding evolution is beyond our current knowledge. They don't know what the Hive's motivation are, what the Hive's religion is, what their rituals do. They have no idea about the inner workings of the hive at this point in time.
Because the moon is off limits, correct? Or is just so scary that nobody wants to fucking go there.
It might be a little bit of both.
Okay.
I mean, no one had been there since Raziel, like Raziel was the
Exactly.
first one to go
Right,
there.
right. And then he came back, and then it was like, no, like I'm assuming he didn't tell anyone about what he saw there or anything like that. Like he
Right.
just internalized it all and was just like, which I'm telling you right now, if you try to internalize trauma, it's a bad thing. So
Well,
yeah,
I will say they do discuss when he's still Raziel, telling the Vanguard that the Hive are active on the moon.
okay,
So he may have said something, and then maybe the Vanguard like made it a no-fly zone after that. But I'm sure he
probably.
did not go into detail about his own ordeal.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely not. Like there's no way that he discussed his level of trauma that he experienced there and sought help for it.
Yeah.
did a little self care there and self medicating, and it's not a good thing.
Not so nice. But so we have, these people that are originally studying this with at least self-proclaimed good intentions. Like we want to understand this dark power so that if we ever have to fight it, we know what it is. We know how it works. And well, we'll see where that goes.
Yeah.
So moving on to chapter 2 of the Book of Unmaking, entitled Freedom. And this one goes like this. The mind is complacent. The flesh has made it so. Possibility limited by stunted imagination, stunted through familiarity. This comfortable life is no life, fleeting, made to decay. Those born only to live to be replaced cannot see eternity, nor are they welcome here. The unwelcome are the unworthy, and the unworthy are a disease. Cleanse thyself of your decay. Then will the mind be free to understand the value of transgression. It is sin to carve upon the flesh, but by whose law is your prison made hallow? Mortal flesh is a prison that makes liars of our beautiful caged minds. This is the second understanding of the seventh book of sorrow. And then Tebben Gray's notes for this page say this. Our search began with a legend. Dredgen Yor, the hated scourge upon the Guardian's good name. Any attempts to seek details of his deeds were met with dismissal. The Vanguard would not see us, uniformly, not just on an individual basis, but for some long-standing internal decree. Lord Shax came at us with threats. He is very protective of his charge as overseer of the Crucible. None of us blame him, though. The competition is vital to Guardian survival, but both in the way it forcibly hones skill and how it serves a necessary dual role as a morale booster and stress reliever. There are few places a Guardian can let loose like they can in the controlled arenas of the Shax's quarantined fighting pits. And that's the end of that chapter.
So to me, this one is very much exploring more of the mind portion of it, of the let thyself be reborn, mind and body, or remade, I guess in this instance.
Yeah, and I mean, Yor is saying like, it's taboo to carve away your own flesh. But who made that law?
Yeah.
Why should you trust this, this long-standing thing that you're just supposed to not do if I'm telling you carving things into yourself can make you stronger, make you freer?
Sure. Kind of that idea of like, why can't I I'm trying to think of an instance that isn't like a bad one. Like my first one that came to mind was like why can't I talk back to my parents? Because I'm gonna get the shit smacked out of me. That's why.
Yeah.
Like that's not the best example, but that's kind of the example.
Kind of, sort of, yeah. Um, and from Tebben's notes, we find here that they are searching. You know, they picked out Dredge and Yor as this like, okay, we want to know what lives in the dark, so we know how to fight it. Well, what's the darkest thing we know of in recent history? Well, there's Dredge and Yor. He was corrupted by things. Let's go ask the Vanguard about him.
Yeah, the
And
Vanguard ain't gonna tell you shit.
yeah, needless to say, Vanguard was like, no, we're not telling you anything. And Shax was even like, drop it now.
That to me is like that the mind blowing portion of it too is like to acknowledge that something exists, but then like forbid it from being talked about. It's
Yeah.
that to me is where like it just creates that much more level of intrigue. Like, you know,
Oh, it does.
I love the saying knowledge is power, because like the more you can know about something, and the more information you can get about something, the more you can make a educated, I don't want to say opinion, but we'll say that, an educated opinion on something, to say, okay, if this is how if this is how X, Y, and Z happened because of X, Y, and Z events, how do I learn from that? How do I not get, in this case, not get corrupted, or
Right.
use that ability to fight this greater power? You know, like the whole identity of a guardian of there's a greater darkness out there. We need to be continually fighting and pushing back and reclaiming the soul system. So yeah, I do like that I like that somebody is trying to look into this. I also hate that the Vanguard is just like, no, it's taboo. Don't talk about that. Like,
Yeah. And I think from the Vanguard's point of view, I think they're just scared.
yeah,
Because like
absolutely, 100%.
your Dredge and Yor was such an unknown force.
That ended
You know?
Guardians
Yeah, that final Death Guardians
without
in the
killing a
Crucible.
ghost.
Yeah, final Death Guardians in the Crucible, which is why Shax is so defensive about
Yep.
it. And again, the Hive were not an understood thing. People didn't know they really even existed officially until Yor came back and was like, "No, I fought them." Well, Raziel came back and said, "I fought them." So Yor is wielding magics the likes of which they have never seen
Because the Hive have never left Luna up to this
at
point.
this point in time. Yeah. Like the only reason that Raziel went to the moon in the first place was because of these rumors.
Yeah.
Essentially that like there were rumors left over from the original collapse that said there were these terrible dark monsters that left after the collapse, left at the end of the collapse and took up residence on the moon. And like they were just whispered about boogeymen that some people didn't even believe existed. So like it's so strange to try and think of the Hive that way when there's such a regular thing in game now.
I mean, especially with how much of a threat they truly pose. Like, I mean, that's how Oryx came to be in the system. That's how Crota came to be in the system. That's how Savathun, Zero Wrath. I mean, there's so many high name Hive in this system that it is kind of mind blowing to think that at one point in time they were just kind of this unknown entity that nobody talked about.
Yeah. So as you said, the more that the Vanguard was scared about this thing that they did not understand and did not want another Dredge and Yor situation under any circumstances, they denied. And so it drove them to find that information in whatever other way they could. So we're going to move on to chapter 3, which is titled Self. And it goes like this. Before one can be freed, one must question the truth of their purest identity. And so a question is begged. Who resides at the core of your being? Only honest reflection will see you, lone traveler, through the coming storm. Look then, clearly upon the whole of your existence, and face your glory, strength of will, every flaw of your mortal heart and fabled soul. Through the pieces of a life lived divine, your truth. But do not lie. To the world if one must, but never to yourself. To see yourself as anything but what you truly are will lead you down sorrow's road, unprepared for the consequence of your salvation. Once an understanding is met, and the self is purified in the knowledge of its truth, the cage is set to be unbound. Know thyself in honest ways, or falter in light of your truest self. This is the third understanding of the seventh book of sorrow. And then Tebin's notes for this one say this. The search for the truth of Yor's tale was not easy. If official records existed, they were hidden beyond our purview, and the realities of the legend were tracked only by word of mouth. The fabled Dwindler's Ridge was not on any map. The burnt ground where Palamon once stood wasn't marked as anyone's sacred site, and the renegade who'd felled Yor had not been seen for some time following that fated showdown. Despite all of this, we were not deterred. If anything, Orsa and I, and the others who eventually followed, were driven by the difficulty of our chosen task. That a guardian could be corrupted, that our gifts could be twisted not by greed or lust or power, but by influences beyond petty human desires, was a concern greater, maybe, than any other. Were we not honored with our return because of some inherent nobility? If so, how could one of us, any of us, fall to such damnation? Or was this heroic interpretation of our role in the grander scheme nothing more than the surest sign of our blind innocence? After all, it feels good to imagine oneself a hero, morally superior and standing tall on the side of righteous hope. But the question that we would ask then is simple. How well do any of us truly know ourselves? And that's the end of that chapter.
This one brings up a lot of those inherent questions. Is light morally good? Is darkness morally bad? Yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's like that idea that he brings up, like were we not honored with our return because of some inherent nobility? Like are we that noble of a cause to be res to fight for the good and fight for the light and drive out darkness because darkness bad? And yeah.
Well, and that is the rhetoric that a lot of guardians were being told at that point.
That's what kind of like blows my mind, is that is even, I mean, Zavala truly did believe that. Like until Eris Morn came back from the moon. Like and I mean, we're talking that's years before that is even going to happen at the point in time of this self book. It's so much written like that. I say written. It's believed that way. Like Zavala truly believes light is good. Like Speaker says light is good, darkness bad. Like everyone in the tower that's around the traveler and associated with guardians and the light and everything has really drilled it into everyone. Light is good, darkness bad. And so I like the idea that the we're now up to a group of people. It's not just one dude anymore. Who are all arguing whether or not it's Tesla or ice cream or pizza. but they are all trying to find answers. They're trying to understand how the hell, if we're supposed to be that good, how the hell could anything corrupt us? Like, I mean, it's almost like comparing it back to the entire legend of Arthas, right? Like Arthas and his knights round were the noblest. They were good. They brought good to everything. There's no way anyone like that could ever be corrupted. And if we're guardians and the light is good and we're supposed to be this noble thing, how the hell could one person be corrupted enough to just give up his ghost, to give up the light, to just be like, no, everything must die? That's just insanity to these people. Like, there's no way that should be a thing.
Well, and the thing is that we can start to see some of the seeds of self-doubt here, because Yor's message in his writings for this, the third understanding, is, face yourself, know who you are. You can lie to the world all you want, but don't lie to yourself. Truly dissect everything you've ever done and ask yourself, are you good?
Yeah.
And now that's kind of what Yor is saying is resonating with them. They're like, they're starting to question that. They're like, what? Do we know who we are? Like, do we know really deep down if we're good people or not?
Which is crazy to think of too, because like truly good and bad are all a point of perspective. Like,
oh yes.
To the ant, we are the bad guy. We want them dead. All they want to do is make more ants. That's all they want to fucking do. And we're just like, no, you can't do that. And so, from a morality standpoint, to an ant, if an ant has a concept of morality, we as humans are a bad guy, and we're the bad, and they're the good. So, yeah.
So it's, we can see here what started as a, like, we want info, we want to understand, now is starting to turn into a, like, maybe there's a point here,
But then, like, what qualities do they look at internally to determine this is a good factor? This is good. This is bad. Like,
right.
God, that's a dangerous freaking game to play, Myth.
Yes, it is. Especially when your previous entries are telling you, like,
unmake
free
yourself.
your mind, unfetter your existence from your previous concepts of your physical and mental being, and like become something new. And like you can kind of see the process that Yor was putting forth here, and presumably went through himself. So moving on to the next chapter. This is chapter 4, entitled Whispers. And it goes like this. Seek the whispers. They are faint, but they are calling. Not all bone carries the sound of secret truth. Most are fragile, hollow things meant only to carry the weight of wasted lives. In the fetid remains of yearning marrow, find love, find life, and in their lies you will discover the narrow road to all you never dreamed to be. However, whispers are but sound, as is the breeze. Not all who listen can share its purpose. Know thyself and listen well, and do not fear when the whispers carve their welcome. Rejoice. The agony of the cutting word is a boon to those who embrace its severed logic. The cutting word is a doorway, the first syllable of hated salvation. On the path of the hushed tones, the cutting word will guide your unmaking. This is the 4th understanding of the 7th book of sorrow. And then Tebben Gray's notes for this one say, we found the craft undisturbed in low orbit, its course synchronized to the exact coordinates of its master's final resting place, some 1,800 kilometers below. We'd suspected an anomaly in its mechanics on approach. Locking to the faint ping of its nav drive, our instruments detected a low, guttural whine, otherwise lost in the vacuum of the post-atmosphere emptiness between worlds. Its tethering, and the fact that it was chained to the specific coordinates of the ridge, was not directly linked to the craft's onboard system, but instead to desire. The ship was waiting in pained anguish for his return. The hull was more of husk, harsh and jagged from growth. We had never seen a ship crusted in the bone of unknown death, but were more intrigued than concerned. The whispers started on approach, faint and hushed, and moments later, our ears began to bleed. And that's the end of that chapter.
I'm just saying, anything in this Destiny universe that's a bone and whispers to you is frickin' bad. I'm not even going to say that. That's not a morally point of view anything. Bones that are whispering to you end in bad stuff happening. Full stop.
Yeah. Maybe take young Ahamkara's spine off.
Maybe. We Warlocks gave up Dire Helm of Ahamkara. It's not because they nerfed it, but it is because they nerfed it. That's not the point. The point is we took it off.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can take Spine of Ahamkara off. It's okay. We won't judge you. We will, but it doesn't matter because you're a hunter and it doesn't matter.
But so we see here Dredge and Yor's ship has just been hovering above his grave
and completely boned out. Like the ship has transformed. The ship has taken on its own personality. And the fact that, like what you're saying, it's just hovering above its grave, right above the ridge. So now we know exactly where the ridge is. Like, hey, right there, found it.
Yep.
Like now we're getting hard evidence that this stuff existed. Like once you start going into that level of, okay, this person that we thought was just kind of this legend, this myth, now has a physical something that we can attach to, something that we can that.
Yep.
I hate to say it, but like anytime you find something like that, never leads to good things, because now it becomes a worshiping site. So yeah, the fact that they have found a physical thing, not only his resting place, but the ship, like that's just bad. It's all bad.
Yeah.
I mean, your ears bleeding should probably be like an indicator of like.
Right, that should probably
maybe deter,
key off a little bit. And to your example, it's one thing when the evidence you find suggests that story was, embellished. It's another thing when the thing that you find, that physical evidence, tells you that it was so much worse than you think.
Yeah. I do like the idea of his ship though. Like when thinking of his ship, I'm instantly thinking of Eris Morn's ship. Like it's very
just
much
like covered in hive chitin and bone, and I get the same image for sure. But yeah, so we're gonna move on to chapter 5, which is entitled Purpose, and it goes like this. The whispers are many, a legion of liars and demons, set to challenge your resolve. Hear the words, but know that they question your truth. The journey forth is not direct, but a shifting maze meant to discard the unworthy. Salvation does not want you. Evolution does not care. The whispers are your guide and your undoing. Mark their words, but do not follow blind. To follow blindly is to sacrifice oneself to the abyss, becoming not one, but one of the many, just another lost soul. The truth of hushed intent is mired, that fools may never know the glories of their grand purpose. Lose yourself not in the whisper's words, but in their purpose alone. This is the fifth understanding of the seventh book of sorrow. And then we have Tebben's notes that say this. You have to understand, we were still very new to the path we'd tread, boarding Yor's derelict craft in search of our first answers was the act of children, ignorant to the truths and the dangers that marked our journey. It wasn't until later, when more pieces of the whole were uncovered, that we grasped the reality of the odd white noise gnawing at the edges of our thoughts. Any more we call them whispers, but then, in those early days, as we approached and entered the craft, its kit-bashed roll cage still identifiable where it wasn't over-crusted in the dark, uneven horror of bone, we mistook the siren call for feedback from a dying ship's failing systems. We were fools. Orsa found the scribbled glyphs on thick leather inside the craft that once, long ago, belonged to Yor. We couldn't identify the origin of the writing at the time, much less translate, though we'd all heard the stories of the Hive, an ancient evil and an ancient battle that turned Luna into a forbidden zone. Most held them as folklore, scary stories to counteract our natural curiosity and keep brave guardians from venturing beyond their means. And while we had our theories about Dredgen Yor and how his fall was linked to the nightmare tales of wicked creatures born of bone and shadow, we were cautious not to let assumption guide our inquisition. And that's the end of that chapter.
So this is it. This is the finding of the text.
Yep.
This is all everything we've been reading so far. This is where they found it. Just chilling in a cargo bay or cargo, probably more like a glove box. I don't know. Guardian ships are kind of small.
Yeah.
They're not really like cargo ships. They're more like little two-door sedans. Is what I think of them. But yeah, like it's interesting here that they kind of mistook those whispers as just white noise, as just like, oh, well,
Yep.
the ship is just sending out signals and our radios are just interpreting it as nothing, like it doesn't, our radios don't know. So even at this point, they don't truly understand that these bones are whispering to them.
Right.
And yeah, no, it's yeah, that's not good.
No, it's not. And they're digging through the ship, and the inside of the ship is covered in bones, and those bones presumably are what are whispering at them.
But they don't even know that. Like the fact that they don't even recognize them as whispers is just
right. It's just like they're like, oh, that's
terrifying.
A weird static. There must be systems on the fritz, kind of thing. This thing's been here forever.
I'm sorry. Your ears bleed. You still approach, and then you're like, oh. Must be static. Weird. No. You insane SOBs. What the hell?
But they find, these scribbled glyphs on thick leather. And
they are exactly that. They are like hot dogs on a grill and hamburger and ice cream cone and all that stuff.
They are the Hive text. Yeah.
Is there a place that has actual names for these things?
I do not know.
Okay.
Official names, I don't think they've ever
Right.
been officially named like the vow symbols anywhere,
Right.
but
Like
maybe
is hamburger just like and then like hot dogs on a grill is like ire.
someone somewhere has probably, if that exists, someone somewhere has put together like listening to hive witches and then trying to line them up with symbols somehow. It exists out there somewhere, I'm sure. But
I'm giddy with that thought of like somebody just sitting there like just they got like one hand on a headphone and they're just like,
yeah,
wait, you hear that? There, right there. She said Okay, now what was she looking at when she said Was she looking at me or was she looking at you? Does that mean other? Is other? Okay, now what symbol do you think looks like other? Hot dogs on a grill? Okay, so hot dogs on a grill is
yep, yeah, that's exactly how that went.
Oh
Yeah.
my god.
uh, but yeah, so they're in his ship. They have found his manifesto, the seventh book of sorrow, and they're being whispered at by the bones he left behind.
As Siren calls too, and that's I
Yes,
think that's probably the more important part here too is the bones aren't just like they're literally luring them in. Like they're not trying to like give them any type of message or anything. It's just a lure. It's just like come to
mm-hmm.
us, come to the ship, come to the bones. Like yeah, no, that's not
Yep.
dangerous at all.
So we're gonna move on to chapter 6, which goes like this. Once the word has cut its meaning upon the very essence of you, there will come an understanding of potential. When imagined, your potential will infect and spread. It will be the all of you, all consuming, and the promise of all you can be. Do not allow yourself the confidence of all you hope to achieve. If you dwell on that which is beyond your grasp, you will lose sight of the whisper's purpose, and your end will be an end and nothing more. Maintain your truth from first cut to last embrace, or all you will achieve shall be the echoes of your scream against eternity. Let go of all that is to come, to linger there on the promise of rewards yet earned, will see you lost and never to return. This is the 6th understanding of the 7th book of sorrow. And then Tebben Gray's notes say this. Standing on the ridge as the sun fell, Orsa and I held a silent communion. I remember peace in that moment, peace and acceptance. The course we had set was not frivolous curiosity, but a real, solid, important investigation into an outlawed tragedy that had claimed one of our forebearers. Who was Yor? Not just at his end, but prior, before madness had consumed him. Could his life inform our own? Could its lessons prevent any other from such a violent downfall? We had been warned there were no answers waiting down this road, only sorrow. And standing there, the fading light, the tall grass, and the scorched circle where a villain was gunned down and nothing grew, the weight of answers to come was not our concern. The understandings earned on the journey forward would be their own reward. Every step would make us new. Every discovery would further our grasp on the unknown worlds beyond the light. And that's the end of that one.
They truly are looking for an understanding here. Like it's to look at the unknown and just be told, "Oh, it's bad." it's not enough for these
Yeah.
guardians. They really are trying to find understanding. Like, there has to be a reason for this. There has to be a reason he was corrupted. There has to be a reason that, like, all of this has to have meant something. There's no way that somebody just gets corrupted, he dies, and we forget about it. It's got to be either a lesson to be learned or something, and it's just it's not enough to be told no.
And again, though, they are kind of parroting what Yor was telling them, like, make yourself into something new, free your
Yep.
mind.
Yep.
He literally says every step will make us new. Every discovery will further our grasp on the unknown. Like, without realizing it, they're kind of doing some of what Yor was instructing in his
Yeah.
book.
Yeah. Very much so.
So, we are going to continue into chapter 7, which is titled Joining. And this one goes like this. As the whispers grow, madness threatens the edges of your sanity. The flaying comes not by blade, but through the joining of flesh and bone. The bone will find purchase, taking hold of what once was weak. To force the joining is to abandon focus. Allow the flesh to give of itself, that it may surrender to the coming evolution. Grant yourself patience. Your prison of the flesh is being unmade, your mind being freed. Such glories do not come easy. There will be no peace now, not for some time. Only through a joining of the known and unknown can your path be made new. This is the 7th understanding of the 7th Book of Sorrow. And then Tebin's notes. It was some time later when Orsa came to me with writings from a cryptarch's archives. We had spent a long while attempting to translate the glyphs found on Yor's ship, to no avail. Great care was taken in the furthering of our investigation. We weren't hiding our work per se, but it was not advertised. We had been scolded and warned enough times that we knew to continue our efforts in private as best we could. But by this point, the vanguard ranks had shifted. Brask was no fan of our work, but he was reasonable. His exo replacement was more pointed in his dismissal. A byproduct of his relationship with Lord Shax, I'd imagine, but that's neither here nor there. We had traded with many cryptarchs over the years, and Orsa had long since made it a point to get on their good side. Even still, it took some convincing, and full-on bribery, to eventually get hands on the tomes needed to crack the mystery of the arcane texts. The books and writing we secured from the tradesmen were incomplete and mostly scholarly guesswork, but there were enough translations and competent theory to provide a foundation for our own interpretations. It wasn't long before the pieces started to fall into place. We still had much to learn, but we were certain of a few key ingredients. Yor had been to Luna. Whether his corruption began there or led him there was still unknown, and the glyphs he'd etched spoke of a great unmaking, the truth of which would be our own. And that's where that one ends.
Well, so it turns out the cryptarchs are the guys arguing whether it's pizza or ice cream cone and shit. Freaking cryptarchs. Those guys are assholes anyway.
Yeah, they got nothing better to do than sit and argue about hive symbols all day.
Yeah, you're not wrong. Not going to give me any good shit in my engrams.
Right.
They're just going to sit there and bitch about what pizza and hot dogs on a grill is.
Hey, Rahul, I have an exotic. One second. I need to prove that it is ice cream.
And that ice cream is iryuk. That's what it is. I swear. I heard that wizard say it in a recording once, and that's what it is. Fucking Rahul. Canonically a dick.
Yep.
I still love that, and none of the other Cryptarchs like him. They really are trying to get a better understanding here, but again, it comes to that still idea of the great unmaking of the truth, which would be our own. Like they finally have concrete evidence of everything. That Yor had been to Luna, he'd gone nuts. They have a resting place for him. They have the ridge. They've seen the scene there with the essentially where was that at in the game? Oh God, it was the special corrupted mission when you're doing the Malfeasance quest, where at the final boss there's just like an outline of a body, and it's just black shadow ash. So essentially that's what they found there, at the ridge. They found his ships, they found his tomes, like everything. Everything is real. Now they're really starting to put things together, and they don't necessarily like put it out there in the open, but they definitely don't they don't hide it, but they don't put it out in the open. But yeah, it's still kind of secretive stuff. Like they don't want to let everyone know they're doing all this stuff. Clearly, Cade's not having any part of it.
Yeah.
Cade's kind of on the side of Shaxx of like, that stuff bad, walk away. Though to think of Cade like that is still kind of odd. Like,
I mean,
he might approach it a little differently. He might be like, hey, brother, man, person, thing, whatever you are, don't touch that.
Yeah.
Walk away.
That's probably exactly what it'd be. Be like, look, just don't touch that.
Just don't touch that.
But yeah, now on Yor's entry here, I'm kind of half and half. If he's literally talking about like flaying your own skin and adhering hive bones to it.
Oh, 100%. I mean, he even talks, but even talks about like to force the joining is to abandon focus. Like you can't just like shove a hive bone in your arm and be like, ha ha, I'm a dredgen now. That's not how that works. Like you have to really, he really wants you to like look inward and truly discover your own self and truly discover that form of self. Not just like, hey, I'm a Jedlord because I'm wearing a hive bone on my head. Ha ha. No, that's not how that Dredgen really thinks that like it and I think to Dredgen the whispering of the bones is the more important part of this kind of like two-part thing. Like it's one thing to like graft bones onto everything, but if you're not hearing the whispers, if you're not listening to the whispers, you're just kind of like you're kind of being a copycat and you're not really doing anything. Whereas like if you're truly doing that inward thinking and inward looking of like, okay, can I really hear what they're saying in these bones? Is this really am I really hearing something, or am I just hearing that static, that white noise? And so like I think he's absolutely talking about physically removing your flesh and replacing it with a hive bone if it is talking to you and you are understanding it.
Well, yeah. I mean that yeah.
It's fucked up as shit, isn't it?
A little bit, yeah. He's, your prison of flesh is being unmade.
Yeah.
He's
rip your skin off, replace those chunks of skin with hive bone, but only if that hive bone is whispering to you, and only if you understand those whispers. It's all these little asterisks, right? Like, do this, as long as.
I so wish there were a cutscene in game.
Oh my god!
Shin and Dredgen Yor's showdown, just to see, like, was his face like half hive, or did he have an arm that was all hive chitin, or what did that look like?
I mean, the closest we get is like what his gun looks like. Like if you
right,
the three, and again they are three guns of the same gun, Rose, Thorn, and Lumina, to like hold those three side by side in like a single screenshot and be like, okay, looking at Rose, this is what evolved into Thorn, and this is what Hive, chitin, and sorrow and darkness does to a gun. Now imagine that as a person, and then to look at Rose and go, oh, but there's also Lumina. You can go pretty with it too. You can use the light in good ways.
Yor probably was a monster in a lot of ways by the time he was ended. And yeah, they found this, they bribed a cryptarch and got their hands on this translation material. And now they're actually able to read all the entries that we've been reading this whole time. So we're going to continue then on to chapter 8, which is entitled Secrets. And it goes like this. The whispers hear you. Some say they always have. All you have learned from the quiet words pales to the secrets you scream as your cages start to bend, as the old you starts to break. And the whispers listen, the whispers learn. Every shrill agony etches a map of the mortal condition. Every wicked cry adds to a vast tapestry of understanding. In your pain, the whispers find their answers to your worth. When the flesh is gone and only bone remains, there will be no secrets left to scream. No pain that it may teach you all you never imagined possible. This is the 8th understanding of the 7th Book of Sorrow. And Tebin's notes say, Unmaking. For the longest time, we thought it was a threat. But as our work continued and we deciphered more and more of the glyphs, we came to see it as something more, a promise. Yor's etchings were a roadmap, arcane and cryptic, but with specific intent. Old research hinted at mysterious tomes labeled as books of sorrow. It was theorized by researchers long before our time that the Hive had their own set of holy texts, evidence of which had been gathered before the Great Disaster. These books were believed to be archives of Hive ritual and history, chronicling royal bloodlines and varied ceremonies and rites of passage. We were uncertain of the place Yor's etchings held in the overall picture of Hive legend, but they fit our understanding of these fabled books. As such, through hubris or educated conclusion, is a distinction I'll leave to others to decide, we chose to collect our translations in accordance as a new entry into the supposed Library of Sorrow. The 7th book, we called it. And writing this now, upon reflection, in the last days before the next stage in our journey, I believe, I know, we were right to do so. And that's the end of that one.
Yeah, you want to hear some crazy theories, go listen to our series, The Books of Sorrow. That's literally what they are. The Books of Sorrow are the holy texts of the holy text and history of the Hive. Like it's everything but the crazy thing is, like, they describe things in those texts of things like oversouls and cutting open pathways into ascendant realms and other, I guess you call them other realities. But there's not really an understanding in there. It's just it's really more of a like, hey, these things happened. But there's no true like, hey, how do you create an oversoul? Well, you do some Hive fuckery. Full stop.
Pretty much, yeah.
So yeah, like, and to call this book that they are transcribing now the 7th book Makes total sense. And again, this whole thing, this whole top half of this of like the actual book stuff, he's absolutely replacing flesh with bone. He is 100%. If it was a question before, it is no longer a question. He is absolutely ripping skin off and putting bone in its place.
It does sound more and more like that, yes.
Freaky. Absolutely freaky.
Yeah.
Which again, he's doing the same thing to his ship. He's stripping the skin of his ship, the
Right.
hull, and replacing it with bone to make it whisper and talk to his ship, and he can communicate with his ship now through hive fuckery. And yeah, not a good thing.
So I suppose to offer a potential alternate interpretation, although I'm kind of on your side of things. Like I think he's being somewhat literal here. It could be like, the stripping away your own flesh could be the idea of like destroy the self, like destroy
Sure.
your own ideas of yourself. And with each piece that you lose, you'll learn something about who you truly are.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Sure.
That would be the more kind of metaphysical approach, or maybe metaphorical approach to what he's saying. But given what we know about Yor and the state of his ship, I think he's probably kind of literal.
He's being absolutely literal, is my thought.
So, yeah.
Go look for batshit crazy ways to go batshit crazy. Find batshit crazy ways to go batshit crazy. Become batshit crazy. Full stop.
Profit.
Profit. Oh, I forgot profit. I totally forgot profit. Yep.
So we are going to come to chapter 9 now of the Book of Unmaking, which is technically the last chapter of the Book of Unmaking, but not the last chapter of the 7th Book of Sorrow. So this chapter is entitled Embrace. And it goes like this. As the old self falls away, there will be only suffering. None can sustain in the face absolution, yet evolution demands sacrifice. Pain must be accepted as the new constant, or pain will be all that there is of you. As the white noise of your screams drown the whispers, you will feel alone. You are alone. Is this eternity or oblivion? You will see yourself outside yourself, and you will long to embrace this new evolution, a beacon on the far end of lost hope. Yet you will know, through the pain, through the fear, there is no longer a you that was, only what comes next, and all the pain to follow. Do not linger on the coming embrace. Your unmaking is yours alone, a solitary journey devoid of peace. This is the 9th understanding of the 7th Book of Sorrow. And then Tebben's notes say this. Any guardian with interest in old nightmares has heard stories of the weapons of sorrow, deadly tools said to be infected and warped by twisted science verging on mysticism. In particular, Thorn, the cursed weapon of the light killer Dredgen Yor. But such tools of destruction were only rumor. There was direct evidence of Yor having been a vile bastard, but the legends of his sickly weapon and the disease it spread seemed exaggerated. Another ghost story to warn of unknown dangers. But our translations of ancient hive text seem to point to truth in the legend. The hive had rituals for forced evolution, and what we'd found hinted at transmutation through corruption, degradation, and rebirth. The weapons of sorrow were real. Worse, they were a roadmap to a greater threat, a greater evil. And with this revelation, our determination to uncover Yor's full truth was bolstered by new, terrifying questions. What if the horrors of Yor's deeds were not the endgame? What if his evolution was simply the byproduct of a grander design? What if he was nothing more than a side effect of an ancient arms race, and the weapons we feared from days long past were nothing more than the touchstones on a roadmap to devastation beyond anything we can imagine? What if sorrow was just a pit stop on the road to our coming annihilation? And that's the end of that one.
What if is a dangerous freaking game to play.
Yes, it is.
That's just bad. Like, yeah. I mean, you drive yourself crazy with what ifs. Or you just go to the moon and go crazy anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like, okay, so it at this point in time, or in this reading, it mentions weapons, plural, of sorrow. Only mentions the one thorn. I know there are other weapons of sorrow in game, but the only other two I can think of are Osteostriga, which wouldn't come around until Lightfall, and we crafted it, which, God, we're dumb. I don't know why I just realized that we as Guardians crafted a weapon of sorrow and was just like, yeah, it's fine. And nobody questioned it. Vanguard didn't question it. Ikora didn't question it. Nobody even questioned us, and we're just running around. Hey, weapon of sorrow. Yeah, weapon of sorrow. Yeah, cool.
To be fair, we may have crafted it using the in-game crafting system, but it was created in a different way.
Oh, shit. Okay. Is that a story for another time?
That is a story for this series in a different episode.
Oh, shit. Did I accidentally discover something on my own?
I mean, kind of, sort of, but maybe. It's a good teaser.
Yay! So Thorn, Osteostriga, and Touch of Malice. And Touch of Malice is kind of like a borderline weapon of sorrow. Like, it's not really a weapon of sorrow. It just so happens to interact with weapon of sorrow, which is kind of why I think it's a weapon of sorrow. But I don't know. That's a tough one.
So there is another weapon of sorrow from Destiny 1 in particular.
Is it the last curse?
It is not the first curse.
Okay. Yeah, last word, first curse.
Yeah. No, it is the Necrochasm.
Oh, shit. I always forget about that one. I love that gun. That gun was fantastic. Can we have that one back?
It was. I wouldn't complain.
I don't think anyone would complain.
No. But yeah, so we've got, that's 4 known weapons of sorrow.
Okay.
Thorn, Osteo, Necrochasm, and Touch of Malice. And we can confirm some of those just based on lore. Others we can like confirm mechanically by nature of Touch of Malice only interacting with what is stated as weapons of sorrow.
So weird that interaction.
But yeah, so those are the 4 we know of.
But as far as this point in time in this reading, the only, and you may have to correct me with Necrochasm and Osteostriga, but the only one that is known to exist is Thorn.
Yeah, I don't have reason to believe they would know what the Necrochasm is.
Right.
Because we discover that when we're in the Crota raid.
Right. And then same thing with Touch of Malice. Like, we help craft it with the coming of Oryx and the defeating of Oryx.
That one we did make. That one is our fault.
Oh, shit. We really did absolutely craft that and then was like, oh, hey, by virtue of sword logic, Oryx lives on and kills other things through this gun that we made of him, and we crafted it because we're dumb.
Yeah, but you know.
Or we just love Eris too much. I don't know.
So I don't know if I don't know where their rumors of weapons of sorrow would have come from.
I wonder if they're just that. If they're literally just that, like
It could be.
the idea and legend of like, hey, if there's one gun that some guy used hive stuff to corrupt it and kill
Yeah.
guardians, maybe there's more. Like, and then they've just
Yeah.
decided to call them weapons of sorrow.
I mean, that could 100% be it. We know Yor was just kind of a traveling
Yeah,
murderer
yeah,
for a
yeah.
long while. It could very much be that any survivors he left in his wake started spreading stories about his gun, and you play the telephone game, and what was a hand cannon ends up as a shotgun, or ends up as a scout rifle or whatever, and
Or
now
becomes like a whole
now you've
team of guys.
created now you've created this weapons of sorrow pantheon out of
Yeah,
a single event.
you get to a bar and they're sitting at the bar and they're like, "Well, Jill said it was a shotgun,"
Yeah.
and then Jill's sitting over there. She's like, "No, no, no! I swear it was a hand cannon, or maybe it was a shotgun. It sounded like a shotgun. I don't know. Steve, do you know what it was?" And Steve's over there like, "Fuck, dude, maybe a scout rifle. I don't. It had the rapport of a scout rifle, like something big. Maybe I don't know. Joe, do you think it was a sniper?" And Joe's sitting over there like, "Fuck, dude, I don't know. They're all dead. They're all fucking dead." And he can't even get over himself. He can't even get into his drink or anything. So yeah, that's exactly what's happening here. This legend has become bigger and bigger and bigger just because each person can't even decide what the hell they've survived. It's that level of craziness that yeah, I think that's more accurate, is that it's that level of like unknown. Like if there was one and there's multiple reports of it, but each report is slightly different, and that game of telephone has now evolved into multiple guns or multiple people with multiple guns. Now it's just like a what the fuck do we do now?
Yep.
Or is it multiples of the same gun? Are there multiple thorns? Are there multiple? I mean, I have a thorn in my vault. You have a thorn in your vault. And by vault, I mean collection for both of us because we don't play PvP.
You're not wrong, and we actually will talk about that. There are not at this point in time
Okay.
multiples of Thorn. But there is a reason for those multiples that we both own one, and many others do.
Other than here's quest, go finish quest.
Yes, there's a in-game lore reason, I should say.
Gotcha.
So this is an interesting thought, though, that he touches on. Like, what if the weapons of sorrow, for as terrible as they are, we know that the hive purposefully made them, or the hive purposely set traps to corrupt people into making them. So what if they're the tip of the iceberg? What if the weapons of sorrow we know are just the prototypes to eventually make something far worse? Like, what if this is the hive learning how to make bigger, better weapons to fight us with?
Dude,
Are the questions that they're asking.
That's fucking terrifying. Like, first off, the idea of like the hive using traps to like lure guardians in and then have them whisper to them through bones and craft stuff, and then the second one of using those weapons to learn and be like, oh, this is how we kill a guardian. Okay, cool, gotcha.
Yeah,
that's fucked up. That's scary as shit.
It is. But that's what they're starting to wonder, if that's what's happening with the weapons of sorrow.
I'm starting to think that is what's happening with these guns.
So for our next reading, which is technically the 10th chapter of the 7th book of sorrow, but is a chapter in a different lore book. And this is jumping ahead just a little bit, because we're going to talk about the other bits of this lore book later. But this chapter comes to us from the lore book titled "For Every Rose a Thorn," and the chapter is titled "Evolution."
Is this the point where I get to sing?
No, it's not.
Damn it.
This chapter goes like this. Look upon the world with eyes and know that you now see for the first time. All of your time before now, every choice, every moment was the antithesis of all you were meant to be. To dwell on what was is the greatest sin. A new you hides, trapped and desperate to be freed in the instant beyond now. Step confidently forward into the unknown, beyond the present. There you will find yourself waiting. Evolution is constant for those who embrace tomorrow. Once unmade, you will be new. Your eyes free to meet the lies of existence with unfettered judgment. Only through new eyes can the burden of failed existence be cast aside that we may see, truly see, for the first time. This is the 10th understanding of the 7th book of sorrow. And then we have Tebin's notes for this. We have shed our previous selves, not as a final step along the road we have chosen, but as another step forward. The difference between now and then, between this moment and all moments prior, it is the difference between one life and the next. We are no longer the men and women we were as our journey began. We have entered our third lives. And though we are not wholly changed, our evolution has begun. To mark the passage from who we once believed we were to who we will become, we have surrendered our dead names to claim new, eternal identities with which to write our future upon the shadowed path ahead. Orsa is now and ever Dredgen Vale. Zana Mass, Dredgen Scar. Jonah Pavic, Dredgen Mire. Callum Soul, Dredgen Cull. Braga Yasul, Dredgen Totalis. And I, Tebian Grey, Dredgen Bane. There will be fear at the sight of us, and in response to our deeds. There will be pain, both ours and others. This we know, and this we accept with pride and eager, angry hearts. And that's the end of that one.
Well, shit. Shit, Myth.
And thus are the Shadows of Yor born.
Shit. This is what happens. This is what happens when you have too much intrigue and not enough direct info, and people go digging around on their own and decide this is the way to go.
Yep. So yeah, we have here, these members of this expedition for information have decided that they are going to tread the same path as Yor to glean more understanding, to get more power, whatever it may be. They are now fully taking the dip and giving up their old names to become Dredgens in their own right, each picking a new name. And these are the founders of the Shadows of Yor cult, essentially.
Well, holy shit.
So, in regards to why there are a bunch of Thorn replicas running around, we actually have Orsa, aka Dredgen Vale, to thank for that.
I mean, you got a whole cult. Everyone's got to have their gun. So I have a bunch of questions, but I feel like they're all kind of like self-explanatory. By becoming this third version of themselves, they've abandoned their ghosts. So we have a whole mess load of guys abandoning their ghosts, correct?
Not necessarily. It doesn't say anywhere that they've abandoned them. And Dredge and Yours ghost stuck around for
A
at
hot
least a little
second.
while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot while. Okay. Um and yeah, I think I'm assuming you have a lore entry for it, but it seems kind of self-explanatory too. Like there's a whole cult of Dreadsons now. Everyone's got to have a weapon of sorrow. Everyone needs a thorn.
Yeah. Now, this is an important distinction, though. Nobody has ever created a thorn that does what the thorn did. No one has
Oh,
been able to create a weapon, truly recreate the weapon of sorrow thorn,
that's
because
true.
that one was a guardian killer.
I was going to
Like
say
it drained
we'd
life.
have a lot of guys deleting their game and creating new accounts.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
So they were not able to make their own versions of Thorn, but what they were able to do, specifically Dredge and Vale was able to do, was understand enough about how the original worked to make pretty close replicas. And we see him broadcast exactly that. This is from all the way back in D1. The Ghost Fragment Thorn 5 from the Age of Triumph is a broadcast from Dredge and Vale where they say, "We have tamed the sickness, broken it with unwilling sacrifice. Now we claim our reward. Have you heard the whispers, brothers, sisters? The shadow speaks. All we have to do is listen. Its secrets are a gift. Its gift, our evolution. The others misunderstand. We are the weapons of sorrow, living and free, the hated heroes of this broken age." And that's the end of his transmission.
Okay then.
So he's doing this kind of audio transmission out to presumably other members or people that seem sympathetic, and he's telling them like, we have tamed the sickness, and the sickness is in reference to Thorn.
Right.
Um,
Made it less lethal, because I don't know. That's kind of a confusing thing. Like on the one hand, I guess they don't want it as lethal because they still want to like convert people, but they still want to like be the boogeyman.
well, I think it's just a case where it's not possible to make another one.
Okay. Okay.
And they don't have the original.
Right.
Like, presumably Shin probably has the original. But so they don't have the original to even attempt to remake it or repair, but they've understood enough about the process that was used to create it that they're able to create their own, albeit incomplete, versions of it.
Probably kill a guardian, but probably not like suck the life out of them. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's still enough to put fear in people.
Oh, absolutely.
Like this hive looking thing running around with a crazy looking hand cannon just blowing people away. Yeah, that scared the shit out of me.
Oh yeah. And funny enough, like they start showing up in Crucible matches with these replicas.
Oh my god. How does Shaxx not just like look at these guys and go, "Get the fuck out. What are you doing in here, you posing little shits? Get out of my Crucible right now." How does he not he just sits back and goes, "Huh, throw more grenades next time. Maybe that'll take him out."
Well, I mean, we're unsure how familiar Shaxx was with the original Thorn.
Sure.
as far as like he may not know it on sight, you know.
Okay.
Additionally, their thorns aren't killing people.
Gotcha.
So, you
They're
know,
not doing the
he
final death,
may
so it's not even like it's not even
right.
like really a threat. It's more like a boogeyman type thing. Like
Right.
I guess on the outside it just looks like they're just really good at Crucible.
Yeah, and you know, Shax is probably looking at it as like an intimidation tactic
Yeah.
of some sort.
Like come take
Uh,
these guys on.
right. So we see a few transcripts from various Crucible matches that they were in. The first one coming to us from a Rise of Iron ghost fragment titled "The Cauldron," the Crucible map, the Cauldron, in which we have a unnamed individual talking about their game that they just fought, saying, "We were facing a full squad. I recognized a couple of them, Orsa, Tebin, but they were different, decked out in dark gear and set to intimidate. I took it as an attempt at psychological warfare, you know, up the creep factor in a creepy place, but it was more than that. They had changed." And that's the end of that one.
Oh, they definitely changed.
So yeah, so this is a like they're showing up in Crucible now, showing off presumably to probably try and find recruits. Like look at us and what we can do and what we have, and if you know, then you know, come seek us out, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Uh
I like that idea. I think I like that more than the idea of like come try to defeat the boogeyman. It's more it really is that intimidation factor of like if you heard the legends of Dredgen and you heard all the stories, like come face us, come find out. But it's also kind
yeah.
of like my favorite graph of yours. Fuck around and find out.
Yeah.
I like that graph.
But that's not to say that the Vanguard didn't take notice
Oh,
that
there's
this
no
was
way they
happening.
didn't. Like,
Uh,
you got a bunch of guys running around the Crucible with
right.
crazy grafted guns, and you're like, this isn't right, is it?
That's also not to say that a particular renegade didn't also take notice.
That's what I'm saying. Like, the guy who ended it all in the first place, there's no way that he didn't go, now hold the fuck on.
Yeah. So we see a very brief discussion between one Shin Malfur and an Ikora Ray in the ghost fragment from the Rise of Iron for Blind Watch. And that little discussion goes like this. I'm assuming you're aware of the events on Mars. The results from Blind Watch. Yeah, it may be starting again. Not saying it is, but we need to keep an eye on any who would seek to retrace Yor's path. Agreed, but Orsa and his friends seem to have contained what Yor could not. A dangerous assumption. The Thorn's pestilence is becoming commonplace. And that's the end of the little excerpt we get.
Seems like their ranks are growing. It seems like there's more than just these 5 or 6 dudes now.
Yeah, they're definitely getting a following going.
Which I mean, the Vanguard does not like a following. I mean, look what they did to Osiris. Like,
yeah.
Look at Brother Vance. Now ask yourself, who is Brother Vance? And that is your answer.
Yeah, even Osiris wonders.
That's what I'm saying.
but yeah, like they're people are seeing these very deadly, very blacked out, intimidating Crucible players, and some people are being drawn to that. They're like, okay, I want to know what these guys are about.
I'm an edge lord. I'm pretty good at Crucible. Let's go.
Right. So people are trying to get in on this, and their ranks are growing. And we see some of that in another ghost fragment from Rise of Iron for the Cathedral of Dusk, another Crucible map. And this is a conversation between two unknown guardians during the match, or maybe prior. And the little conversation goes like this. Ah, a thorn, huh? Yeah, freshly crafted, you like? A little risky playing with something that's been known to kill guardians, isn't it? Look where we are. Everything in the system has been known to kill guardians. Sure, but there's facing trouble and there's asking for it. And this isn't like the stories we've heard about Yor. Vale figured this out, tamed it. Can you really tame a sickness? Good question. Let's go pick a fight and find out. That's the end of that little excerpt.
So correct me if I'm wrong. Cathedral. That's on the Dreadnought.
Yes.
So I mean, we're getting into like late D2 now, or late D1.
Yeah.
Holy
Shadows
shit.
of Yor have been around for a while,
and
their
haven't
ranks
like
have
been
growing.
dealt with or anything. Like they've just been growing. Dude. I always thought like the whole dredging thing and all the shadows, like that was like all Dark Age and pre-City Age and all. We've come a long ass way
Yes, we have.
in just a short amount of time. Like, holy shit.
Yeah, I mean, we went from the founders of the Shadows of Yor truly became dredgens in and of themselves. From the sounds of it, not too long after Cade assumed the Hunter Vanguard role.
Yeah.
So from that point to where we're at now, the end of D1, they've just been in the background figuring out how to make thorns and growing their numbers.
That's mind-blowing. That's genuinely mind-blowing that's all that they've been doing, and the Vanguard hasn't tried a single thing to like stop them or slow them down or anything. Like that's just, I don't know.
I mean, there's been no, it's not like they've made a move for power. It's not like they've killed anybody.
That's true. Like their thorns, and I guess those are the two main things there, right? Like their thorns aren't lethal. They're not dealing final deaths to guardians, and they're not trying to make a vie for power. They're just kind of out there in the system, running around as edgelords, going, "Come take me on, bro."
Yep.
Okay.
So, for our final reading of the evening, we're going to look at Ghost Fragment, the last word 5. This is a conversation between Shin Malfur and his ghost about this growing threat? Question mark?
Question mark is right. Like, I don't know anymore. Like, if they're not vying for power and they're not really killing anyone, are they really that dangerous? Now they've got me wanting to join their ranks.
They're delving into some dark things, though.
They are.
And, the worry is, when is one of them going to be the next Yor?
Yep.
And so we have this conversation between Shin's ghost, which is unnamed, I believe, and then Shin himself.
Well, wasn't that ghost the wasn't that Jaren's ghost?
It was, but I don't know that he's ever named or they're ever named.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't.
Sorry, I
so.
didn't mean to like take you off path. You said unnamed ghost, and I was instantly reminded that it was Jaren's ghost, and I couldn't remember if it had been named before. But it wasn't the first ghost that like separated from the child, because that ghost died.
Right, that ghost died to the Fallen.
Yeah.
Yes, this was previously Jaren Ward's ghost, who has since become Shin's.
But never really named.
No name that I remember us getting.
Okay, that's fine.
But this conversation goes like this. Will you fight them? The shadows? Those who have taken up arms in the name of Yor. The hope is they're more careful than their inspiration. And do you believe that'll make a difference? No. Then what will you do? The Vanguard has an eye on. The Vanguard have their eyes on many things. I'm aware. Then what will you do? What needs to be done? And that's the end of their conversation.
Man with the golden gun is going to come to town and take some motherfucking dredgens out. Yeah, that's exactly what's going to happen. I will do what needs to be done. That's a okay.
Yep.
Okay.
So we have the seek for understanding of Yor and his dark powers, the kind of being tempted and pulled in by that understanding, the founding of the Shadows of Yor, the growing of their numbers, and the creation of the thorn replicas, leading up to Shin deciding that he's going to do whatever he deems necessary. And that is where we're going to end for this episode.
All righty. Well, let's do some shout outs then.
Yeah. So we've got a couple shout outs tonight. I say the first of which comes to us from Twitter, which is coming to us from Predator. And they say, big fan, definitely my favorite D2 lore podcast. I love your
Aw.
format and how you get right to the storytelling. And you two have great conversations after with just the right amount of tangents. Not limiting. Yeah.
Man.
Just the right amount of tangents that are left in after post.
Yes.
Is what you really mean.
That's what he really means.
Not limiting to one book and bringing a topic fully together is awesome.
I love that. I love bringing everything together to be a complete picture.
Yeah, I and series like this, and our Bray series, and that, like, I love finding all the little breadcrumbs and putting them in chronological order and figuring out like what did this whole story look like from beginning to end. And
I mean, the one breadcrumb that still like blows my mind is Micah running into Cade out on Europa.
Yeah.
Like that one thing is like, are you fucking serious? Like, is that really a thing? But it's Micah pre-Guardian running into Cade post-Exo. It's still all pre-Guardian. Like, it's just like, what the hell, man?
I know, it's wild. But Predator had two theories they wanted to share as well.
I love a good theory.
So the first, they say, is I believe the Veil isn't the winnower, but rather a seed of the universe it winnowed.
Okay.
Their second theory is that I believe Gambit will have a big part to play in the final story, considering how Drifter says that Gambit will be our salvation, which is a big darkness buzzword.
Yeah. I could see that. I think Drifter definitely knows more than he's like. I mean, the places Drifter has been, the fact that he had that planet that had the darkness on it, and that's how he survived it. Like, yeah, I think that he knows more than he's letting on about both Drifter and the darkness in general, or about the witness and darkness in general. So yeah, I think Gambit and the Drifter are going to have a big part to play in the final shape. As far as the Veil being a seed, yeah, I could see that. I'm still thinking of the Veil as like I'm thinking of the Veil and the Traveler as two parts of a single whole still.
Yeah, I am too. Or specifically because of what Asa said. Like, I think she says line for line two parts of a whole, or a whole divided or something. A whole
divided,
like that.
I think is what it was. But yeah, I could see the Veil as being like a seed, like the Traveler being this blossomer and leaving behind a seedling or something like that. Like I could see that as well. So I'm still going to stick with my theory of the Veil being a focusing lens of type for the Gardener or for the Traveler. Because to me it's almost like the Traveler is it's almost like the traveler's acting on impulse. It's just terraforming whatever the fuck it wants. And it sees something. It's like, oh, terraform. It sees something over there. Oh, terraform. It sees something over there. Oh, terraform. And that's all it's doing. Like there's no direction. There's no purpose or anything like that. And the veil to me was supposed to direct that purpose. Was supposed to be, oh, terraform this specific spot or this specific area or this specific planet. Or bring life in a specific way. Like the power of the traveler was supposed to be very directed, is what I feel. Just because that veil, the little veins of it and stuff, can't kind of encapsulate. They create a giant sphere that looks like it should encapsulate the traveler, which to me would kind of looking at that and thinking of that makes me think of Gaul's idea of his cage that he put around the traveler. So I think that those tendrils and stuff are supposed to like contain like random bits of power shooting out of it because it's a sphere, so theoretically power emanates in all directions, and therefore the veil would be used as a focusing, so it could focus everything to a single point or a beam or whatever you want to call it, to say I want to terraform this specific thing, or I want to bring life to this specific thing. And at some point in time, what that, and that's kind of like the unknown, is like, why were they separated? How did they get separated? Right. Why was the traveler presumably buried on this other planet? What led to all of it? Like, honestly, the witness's origin story has brought up so many more questions than I've really realized to the entire story. And so I don't know. I kind of like that idea of the veil being a winnowed seed, like a used up traveler or something like that. But yeah, I still I'm going to stick with my idea there of them being two parts of the same, like focusing device or something. I'm starting to grow further and further apart. Like, I always thought the witness was the winnower until that origin story thing came out, and then the witness has just claimed himself as the winnower. So now, from that point of view, I'm starting to think that the traveler is not the gardener. I'm starting to think that these two things are even higher above the traveler, the veil, the witness, all of that.
Yeah, actually, that's kind of an interesting thought. I am in agreement with you on, like, I'm going with what Asa said. They're two halves of a singular thing.
Like they were a tool or some sorts.
Well, and that's what you kind of said something earlier that keyed that off. Perhaps the traveler and the veil are not conscious beings. Maybe they are just literally the tools that were used by whatever those higher beings were to create everything.
Just paracausal machines.
Yeah. And they were given direction by a higher being at some point.
Yep. That's what I'm starting to lean more and more towards. Like, rewatching and re-listening to that to the origin story of the witness and kind of listening to Asa, I'm really starting to lean more that way. I'm still thinking that the gardener and the winnower are beings. Those two are beings, but they are essentially, I hesitate to call them God, but that's kind of the only word I have to describe them.
Right. Yeah.
So that I'm going to call them gods or a god or whatever, because the only reference to them are through the books of unveiling, which we now know to have been written presumably by the witness only.
Yeah.
And the witness talks, and so again, it has to be taken kind of with a grain of salt, just like Truth to Power, right? Like, Truth to Power seems to be telling a story, but what of it is true? What of it is false? How much of this are we supposed to believe? Especially when it's told from the point of view from a quote unquote bad guy. that being Savathun has read this, has transcripted this whole thing. So are we really meant to believe the and this is in reference to Truth to Power, are we really meant to believe that and take it at face value? Although every damn thing Savathun has said to us has been freaking true and has been driving me up the damn wall. And I think that's like the biggest, I don't know, like that's the best way to play the Lord of Deceit, is be like, everything I say is true. Hopefully. Like, just like one little doubt, that one little doubt of like, I don't know what you're telling me is true or not. Now I can't believe anything you're telling me. And so you could tell the truth 100% of the time. But the fact that I know that you are the Lord of Deceit, that you will tell me lies, shit. I can't, like, all it does is feed your power. It to me is like the most brilliant power in the universe. I think that's genuinely brilliant. But yeah, and then in reference to the books of not books of sorrow, the Book of Unveiling, the fact that now we know that the winner the witness has named himself the winnower.
Yeah, I'm
starting to think more and more and more that entire book might have just been written from his people's, or I guess his point of view. I don't know how to reference the witness now anymore. I guess they're a they, because they are multiple consciousnesses living in one body. Like, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Now I agree. I think Book of Unveiling needs to be taken with a grain of salt now. We need to kind of assume that it's a not
half truth.
Yeah, and I was going to say unreliable narrator, but I don't know if that's correct. A narrator with an agenda. That I guess is maybe the best. Yeah.
I think that's the most accurate way to describe the witness.
Yeah. So in regards to the Drifter, it's actually really interesting that you bring them up and Gambit and all that, because, minor spoilers, next episode is going to be all about Shin and the Drifter.
Yeah.
And how Gambit came to be.
Well, there we go. So be patient.
But
as I tell my squirrel brain that, and my squirrel brain tells me to fuck off.
You said you like tangents. There's a big one for you right there.
Yeah. Tangent back right. We tangented so hard we made a circle.
Yep.
Oddly enough, that's exactly what tangents are. Tangents are just points of a circle where a line intersects a circle.
Yes, this is not math class, though.
It will be, damn it.
But no, thank you. I'm glad that you're enjoying everything.
Absolutely.
Say it's been a lot of fun to do. So our next and final shout out of the evening comes to us from Apple Podcasts. This comes to us from Destroy You Now.
Yeah, that's not a PvP name if I ever heard one.
No,
you're a PvP edgelord. I see you. You're out there wielding Thorn and Last Word like a god. I see you, buddy. I see you.
Well, say they were very kind and left us a 5-star review. So thank you.
Now you know where your gun came from.
Yeah. Now you got some history on a PvP gun.
I like it.
But they say, man, y'all just keep that fire lit. The season is dead, but you all keep the light going, and I love it. And the new sound effects with Stories are awesome.
Well, cool.
So,
2 parts there. Well, I guess 3 parts. Yeah. 1, thank you. Number 2, the season it's Destiny's in an odd spot right now. I'll definitely admit that. It's it's the second half of the season. Solstice is going on right now, so I know that's keeping a lot of people playing. I wasn't really big on the Solstice events, so I'm kind of stepping away a little bit from it. But I tell this to everyone. Season of the Deep has been one of the best seasons. Between the narrative that's being told in there, the little secret, and everyone needs to go check this out. The little extra node on Neomuna, that you go to once a week, and it's a super simple thing. You get transported into the Veil, you walk 10 steps forward, you activate the node, you listen to the story, you enjoy it, you go home. As little as that is, it's been really eye-opening. There's a ton of little shit going on throughout that story. that Myth and I have been like, what the fuck is going on here? Like it's truly eye-opening, and I wish, and again, maybe they weren't completed in recording the dialogue or whatever. I wish those had been during Lightfall. I wish that had been a weekly thing during Lightfall, because then it would have really resonated the story of Lightfall. But again, I'm okay with where it's at now. It sucks that it had to be a season out, but I'm okay with it. And then like the activities of Season of the Deep, they're actually really fun. Myth, I didn't realize how in-depth Deep Dive was. That's kind of a how in-depth Deep Dive was. There are varying levels of difficulty in there, and you can kind of make it as difficult as you want. You have the timer for each section that you're racing against, and then you have the Toland event within each time section that you can also activate and race against. So that's, I mean, you can literally create it as hard or as easy as you want to. And I think that's just brilliant. I really think that that's really cool. And I didn't know that that was a thing until Myth was like, hey, after week 3, they started adding more and more and more. And I was like, get the hell out of here. I hadn't played Deep Dive since week 3 because it wasn't required as part of any of the story stuff. Or maybe it was, and I just kind of like breezed through it real quick and then moved on. So yeah, like that is actually really fun. And Salvage is old school Menagerie. Like Menagerie, I love the hell out of Menagerie back from Season of Opulence. That thing was fun as hell, and that's what Salvage is. So yeah, I will admit Destiny is in a weird spot right now, and I wouldn't say it's dead. It's Destiny as a whole definitely is not dead. We're at a downtime in a season. I know everyone's really anticipating the August reveal, like
Myself included.
Oh, trust me, I'm freaking losing my mind over it is what I'm doing. And that's in 1 month. 1 month, August 22nd. So we got 30 days. 31. July is 31. So yeah, it's a knuckle. It's 31. So yeah, that's yeah. Yeah, we'll get there. I promise. We'll get there.
Mm-hmm.
But patience, Padawans, patience.
Yeah, and not to harp on it, and this has been said by many others, but yeah, if you're not having fun with it, it's perfectly fine to step away.
Yeah,
to take
That's
a break
healthy.
because
we call that healthy.
Yes. And honestly, when you do, if you just take a little time away, when you come back to it, it feels so much better.
Like literally myth, when we came back to it, we went and did the secret mission inside Deep Dive because we all had the fishing lures and stuff to go do it. And it was a blast. And then while we were running in, when you get to the end of it and we find the gun, and my wife turns around and she's like, hey, I just shot something. And I was like, what the fuck do you mean you just shot something? She's like, I shot a thing, a darkness thing, a crux thing. And Myth was like, yeah, I saw it. I shot it too. And we were like, oh, fuck, dude, how many of these are there? And we go through and found them all and shot them all. And like, so we're discovering these things like organically. And it was really, really fun.
It was a lot of fun. So, but yeah, even if you're in a position where you don't feel like playing, the gameplay loop itself is just getting a little old for you, take a break and play something else, do whatever, because we're going to still be here. Yeah. We're going to keep telling stories, and you can get some lore, learn what's going on that way.
Get a little Destiny fix once a week. Or if you're new to the series and you're binging it like everyone apparently has been, get something new for about 375 hours or so on. Fuck, I don't know. How many hours? What episode is this, Myth?
90 something.
Jesus Christ. 2 hours a piece, some of them 2.5.
Yeah.
Yeah. A couple of them 3 hours.
Just a few, but yeah.
almost 300 hours worth of content, man. That's blowing my mind. So yeah.
Oh boy.
Yeah, it's okay. Take a break. It's healthy. When you come back to it, you'll be like, "Oh man, this is what I love about this game. This I love the gameplay. I love the gunplay. I love the ability play. I love this. I love that. I love the activities. I love strikes. I love the 10 people out there. I love Gambit." Yeah, no, we get it. Don't worry, we know 3 of those guys, and they're all in our clan. So yeah. But thank you for mentioning us keeping that light lit. I like that. I like that.
So I say that is it for our shout outs for this episode. If you liked what you heard and you want to leave a review on your platform of choice, that's always super great. We really appreciate that. If you felt strongly enough, then your platform allows it, and you want to leave a text review, we welcome those as well. Or you can reach out to us at Twitter at Myths and Stories, Z instead of an S, and we check there and communicate there as well, and may hear yourself as a future shout out.
Yeah. Well, I guess I got my thank yous that I've got to give. I'm going to thank my bar crew. Jill, Steve, Joe, and Bob, and anyone else that was in that bar. Spreading lies, or I can't say spreading lies, spreading rumors of the unknown weapons of sorrow and making them way more legendary than they should be. Maybe tone it down a bit, guys. So, yeah. Anything else, Smith?
That's it.
Alrighty. Well, then, from all of us lore daddies to all of you lore nerds out there, we'll see you next time.